Hi, I'm Greg from Wingfoils. Today we're going to be going over switching your feet on foil and how you can dial in this movement to get it super smooth and consistent. So we're going to break this technique down into feet, hips, wing, and foil, and how you can get all these things working together to make this technique a lot easier. The most important thing from this whole video is actually going to be your hip control, so pay particular attention to that aspect. Particularly if you ride with a really wide stance, the first thing you're going to want to start doing before the switch is to start walking your feet closer together and pointing your toes more forward while staying relatively close to the center line. This just makes it a lot easier to replace your front foot with your back foot and keep riding out. So the next thing is your hips. So the most important thing to remember here is that you do not shift your hips forward when you change your feet. The foot change is not like this. Instead, what you need to do is keep your hips where they are, back, and you're only gonna do a rotation around that hip. So what this prevents is that touchdown. The second you start transferring weight to your front foot, you're gonna upset the balance of the foil and you're heading straight for the water. So again, keeping those hips back where they are, you're gonna replace that front foot with your back. Now, another thing, what this means is that you have to be pretty deliberate. You don't have to jump, but if you keep your hips back, you are falling. So that's the kind of crux point of the technique. Keep your hips where they are and shift your feet around them. So when you're rigging up to go practice this, before you install your foil, throw your board in the grass and get a bunch of reps in. Getting 50 really clean foot switches with your hips back will really dial in that muscle memory so that when you hit the water, you've got more capacity to focus on your wing and your foil and all the other stuff that's going on. As a general concept for foiling, you're aiming to have your body and foil aligned. The second you start breaking that alignment, you're really getting into taco country, and this is no different for the foot switch. So as well as not moving your hips forward, you don't want to go side to side when you're switching. So it's really just that rotation to do the switch. So what your wing can do for you during the foot switch is to buy you more time. Like I was saying, when you switch your feet, it has to be really deliberate so that you don't fall backwards or are tempted to shift your weight forwards and push the front of the nose down. Now, if you've got your wing, instead of holding it straight out, you can bring it a little bit more overhead and pull it in the moment you do that switch. So what that looks like, if I'm hanging off here, my feet stay back, and I just have that extra second of weightlessness to switch my feet. The people to watch this are kiters. If you see these Olympic kiters, they fly that big kite overhead and they have all the time in the world to execute their tack. But essentially, you're just using that wing more overhead, pulling in on your backhand, and switching your feet.
So the last and most subtle point here is to use your foil, similar to your wing, to buy yourself a little bit more time. So what you're gonna wanna do is fly that foil up or ride up a wave and switch your feet at the apex, at the highest point. And that way, if you put a little bit too much front foot pressure on, your board just glides downwards rather than splatting into the water. So you can see me do that a couple times here. Another thing that makes a big difference is having a board with good touchdown performance like the Flux. You can see me just kind of ride out of something like that really easily rather than getting stuffed. Another little gear tip is if you ride with your foil too far back in your tracks, then when you unweight during this foot switch, the board is going to want to start heading nose down. So that's going to make it more likely to hit the water. Whereas if you ride with your foil a little bit further forward of the track, the perfect balance position we talked about in a previous video, then what's going to happen is when you unweight, the board naturally wants to lift. So you're going to get a little bit more front foot pressure, which just gives you that extra bit of positive control and steering over the board while you're switching your feet. So this angle makes it a little bit easier to see bringing that board up and switching the feet and pulling on the wing in synchronization. The foil I'm riding is the Operator 1050. So both our foils, the 850 and the 1050, they're both designed to have a really wide efficiency range and then stability across that whole range. So that's super helpful when you're doing something like foot switches where you might be going slow, might be going fast, and you want that whole system to be working together and supporting you, keeping that foil flying straight when you're doing something dynamic like a foot switch. Thanks for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more content like this. And get out there and wing. Practice this. Let us know if it's making progress or if there's something that's got you stuck. Lastly, check out our gear at omenfoils.com. Like anything in life, money is not going to solve your problems, but it sure as hell can make them easier to deal with.